skipping ahead, some of this is not super exciting, but it is fun to talk about for me anyway. If you're still with me, I'm super impressed. Anyway, so here I found a situation where somebody did manually move these MPs here. And I did this before, but there's, as you might know, there are many ways to do things in Finale. And before I did I used the utilities to change this, but there are super fast ways to do this. One is through meta tools. I'm going to go ahead and program my meta tools to, well, no, I'm not, because I'm going to be switching between them all the time. So I'm just going to do it as it comes. So here I just deleted them. And you can mass assign new ones by just dragging across the entrances. So I want the adjust left. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to rename this. So I see that. There we go. MP. Boom. Now those are both assigned to the wrong place, but I can press Alt and move them. And again, I think the setting for this is in Preferences for Finale, so you may have it set so that you don't have to press Alt to reassign them. In fact, you very well might have it that way, but I want to recommend having it so that it doesn't actually move its assignment unless you tell it to. Because without that, it's easy to assign expressions to, excuse me, it's easy to accidentally move them to something else. And it's especially annoying when somehow, like, you might accidentally move it to a different staff, and then you'll have this phantom thing in one staff and it's missing from the other, which matters when you're editing parts. In this case, obviously, it wouldn't matter too terribly much because the entire choir is going to be reading off the same score. I think that's here in Preferences under Edit. I think it's Anchor Attachment Indicator Lines when dragging. Press Alt to temporarily disable. This is a nice setting. I like having it on. These are really nice that make both of these, I think, make Finale just way easier. While we're here, I want to recommend unchecking this one. Automatic Instrument Family Group Brackets. This is annoying. When I add, if I have something, I have the group, the instrument families all nicely set, and I have the brackets the way I want them. Sometimes, if you add a staff for some reason, it will completely erase your manual groupings and make new ones, and also will add measure numbers to the top of every one of those groups. And it drove me crazy until I figured out, oh, that's here. Uncheck this. You want to uncheck that. I say almost always just uncheck that. So anyway, I'm going to cancel out that because it's already set. Notice here in measure 20, I don't care about this collision because this is the kind of thing that's going to be done in page view. The exact placement of these tempos and things, they have, we have some freedom there, and sometimes because of the way the systems are laid out, we'll want to move them. But very often, this kind of collision you see in scroll view, or yeah, scroll view, just let's look at it actually. Measure 20. Well, it's still there. But that's why I have this file, because it's my job to make it look nice. Also here, like, there's a collision between the beam and the lyric. That's another thing that can be done in page view because we don't want to change the lyrics of the entire thing, and we'll probably want to change them just for one system, and systems are very dependent upon your page layout. So going through, this is somewhat busy work. I want to re-emphasize that anytime you have dynamic ending on a down, like terminating on a downbeat, you want the dynamic itself, or the hairpin itself, to be attached to the previous bar to avoid weird hairpin orphans, which you may have seen by now. If you've worked in Finale long enough, you have seen hairpin orphans, and sometimes you probably don't even know what they are. And actually, you know what? I'm going to show them to you. Because I'm here, and you're here, and if you're still here, you're in it for the long haul, and I appreciate that. I'm going to change the alto line. Here's a pro tip too. When switching between scroll and page views, sometimes when you switch, it shows you a different area of music. So if you highlight the entire measure stack of what you want to see and you switch to page view, it'll almost always show you that bit of music when it shows you page view, which is nice. So anyway, what we're doing here. What were we doing here? This looks funny anyway. Look at this. Well, I caught this. This looks like this got adjusted. No? That's weird. That could have been a measure thing. I don't know. Another finale mystery. Okay, I was going to show you this alto line. See this? Now, if I made a new system here, see that? Those are the worst. Aside from the other things in finale that are the worst, these are pretty annoying, and you can't fix them in page view. You have to. It just doesn't work to change them in page view. You want to switch back to scroll view. Scroll view, really, when you're doing this sort of editing, I just want to reinforce that this should be your default. And you don't want to get into page view until you're really sure that everything you can do in scroll view is more or less done. Thankfully, this is a relatively short piece, which is nice. A lot of the other things I've been working on with this client are larger, longer pieces, multi-act operas and such, mainly just some operas. And you're dealing with, long movements and dozens of parts. It gets unwieldy. Okay, I was going to just sort of skip the rest of this, but I wanted to show this because this is funny. Here's another thing that you might run into when you're dealing with older finale files is things like this. This a tempo. I have no idea why it's attached to the alto line. You'd normally see it attached to the soprano line. And I don't know whether or not this was a result of the finale just not being able to handle the kind of dynamic or the kind of placement that it can now, or maybe somebody didn't know what they were doing. It's a toss-up. Obviously, we do not want an a tempo to be in a miscellaneous expression attached to an individual staff. That's just bad practice. You probably, if you're watching this, you may know how these work. But for tempo markings, obviously, you always want it to show at the top staff, which in this piece will always be soprano, but what we really need to do is get into habits of doing things right. So you could easily just move this to the top staff and be good. But it doesn't show on the piano. And if you just do that and then you edit another piece and you forget that staves might disappear in this one, that'll definitely bite you in the tushy. So get rid of that. This probably has one. It has one, but that's not right at all. There was one attached to the meta tool T, which is here again in miscellaneous. Oh my goodness, this program. The more powerful a program is, the more you can just really mess it up. I personally say stay away from miscellaneous. Don't do anything in miscellaneous except for a couple of things. I have 2 things I do in miscellaneous, and one of them is this fermata expression, and another is this caesura expression. And I have those as miscellaneous because they're kind of just beasts unto themselves. There's nothing quite like each of them. I have each one with manual placement and manual settings and things like that. But the rest of these really, if you get a file and you see all this stuff in miscellaneous, just get rid of it. And notice that this means this is still in the score somewhere. I want to delete this F. It's in the score, and I don't know where. And here's another thing about finale and their expressions is it makes it hard for me to know where that F is. I want to get rid of it. It doesn't belong in my score or yours. And anybody who calls themselves a finale professional and places dynamics that are in a miscellaneous category really, need to reevaluate some of the choices in their lives, I think. Not judging, just saying. Actually, I'm totally judging. Where were we? Forgot what we were doing. Oh yeah, we were adding an a tempo. It was here, wasn't it? 29? Crap. I forgot where it was. It is on 29. To Finale's credit, infinite undo, great idea. I'm really happy that they have infinite undo. I wish it would be so cool if they kept the history of a file in the file itself, so you could undo things that you did yesterday after you close the file. That would be so cool. And of course, that sort of ties in with my desire for like version control. Sibelius has better version control, but nobody really has the kind of version control that I would love to see. The kind you see with software. I would love to see one of these programs develop version control that could really do the same thing as like Git does for programming, where you could see the changes and who did the changes, and reconcile files that seem to be different, and find a diff between files. Oh my god! I once tried doing a diff between the MXL, like I exported this as a music XML file, and that turns this into a plain text, really. It just turns it into an XML file, which you could then plug into a diff calculator, like go online and go to a site that tells you the difference between two text files. And you could do that if you really wanted to see what the differences were between two files. But they're so long. This thing is like a megabyte, I think. And, oh, it may not be that big, but even if it's like half a megabyte of text is, you know, actually not insubstantial. And if you have a slow computer, anyway, we were putting an odd tempo here. And so I might as well use this opportunity to mention tempo marks and how they work. Interesting. Here they are. Okay. So because this file was there, clearly a library of expressions was imported into it. Finale isn't smart enough to recognize that when I import a library that has a expression category called tempo marks, I want it to put it into the native tempo marks, but it won't do that. So, you know, sometimes I just leave the native ones alone, and other times I try to use them, and I'm not super clear on that. In any case, I don't want tempo marks anyway. I want tempo equation. No, that's mine. Tempo alterations, right there. And here's an odd tempo. And what makes these categories different from other categories of expressions is, and again, Finale just gets like an F+ with category designers, because with the categories, because not only can I not like reorder these, but I can't even see at a glance. It does not give me an easy visual as to what sort of category this is. There are several different kinds of categories. Dynamics are individual staff categories, or a category for individual staves. Anything you use with the dynamics is automatically going to be assigned to a single staff, and it's dependent upon when you assign that thing. Tempo marks, however, use a score list, as do tempo alterations. And you can see actually tempo marks have a number font, tempo alterations don't. And the only way to get new categories is to duplicate existing ones, which again is just such a hack way to do it. I wish Finale would just completely overhaul their entire category designer and everything, because I mean the way they do it is very powerful and not actually that hard once you get used to it, know how to handle it, but it's just so counterintuitive. Anyway, I was going into tempo adjustments, no, tempo alterations, the imported one. And you can see that it's assigned to score list 2, which is going to put it at the top of the score and the top of staff 2 in the score. And the part, there's not going to be a part, but whatever. So actually I can rename this while I'm at it. There we go.